Mike Novogratz forecasts a bullish takeoff for Bitcoin, BTC, once the U.S. Federal Reserve eases down on its aggressive rate hikes aimed at taming inflation. The current cycle has especially been tough for the firstborn crypto, as it suffers from both an unfavorable outlook, and the effects of growing correlation with traditional finance. As a consequence, Novogratz believes the asset will stage a comeback once the abysmal macroclimate cools. Novogratz disclosed these opinions while speaking on a CNBC Squawk Box episode Tuesday. The 53-year-old CEO of Galaxy Investment Partners implied that Bitcoin lost its status as a potent hedge against inflation when Fed Chair Jerome Powell began his campaign of interest rate hikes. Bitcoin, often touted as an inflation hedge, collapsed in tandem with other risk assets as the Fed staged its response against inflation. The asset's recent correlation with traditional finance contributed to its fall. When Powell started beating inflation over the head with a sledgehammer, of course, Bitcoin came back down, as did lots of assets, Novogratz remarked. Notwithstanding, the American billionaire and investor argued that Bitcoin will likely see a breakout once Chair Powell gives up the fight against inflation. According to Novogratz, Powell's moves towards combating inflation have a more detrimental effect to Bitcoin than inflation itself. Last month, the Fed raised benchmark interest rates by another 75 basis points in its continued fight against inflation. The move marked the third consecutive 0.75% hike, and the central bank noted that hikes could persist going forward. Hikes in interest rates do not come without their adverse effects on the economy and risk assets. In view of this, a UN agency recently released a report, warning the Fed against further hikes. The Bitcoin is an inflation hedge narrative has seen some objections from crypto critics of late. This is due in large part to the asset's struggles against the recent inauspicious macro atmosphere. While some crypto proponents have held on to this belief regardless, most have had to review the assertion. 2 months ago, CEO of SkyBridge Capital, Anthony Scaramucci, argued against the assertion that Bitcoin is an inflation hedge. According to Scaramucci, the asset is not mature enough to serve as a powerful hedge against inflation. He noted that Bitcoin needs to reach $1 billion in wallet bandwidth to be able to hedge against inflation. Scaramucci has, for some time, asserted that Bitcoin cannot hedge against inflation yet. Notwithstanding, the former White House communications director remains bullish on the assert in the long term.